Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors here at Trillium. I wonder if you remember a Hanna-Barbera cartoon character named Snagglepuss. Maybe I'm giving my age away here, but he was a character I kind of grew up with as a kid. He was a mountain lion, a pink mountain lion. He had a couple of famous sayings. One was,
"Heavens to Murgatroyd."
Never understood what that really meant. Another one was,
"Exit, stage right."
Anytime Snagglepuss found himself in any trouble, he would say, "Exit stage right," and he'd scamper off to safety. But here's the irony. He always ended up back where he started in the episode, or even in a worse situation when it closed. And the moral of the story I took from it, even as a kid, was you can't run from your troubles. You can try to run from them, but in the end, they're going to catch up to you. And so running from them doesn't really make much sense. You know, a lot of people have their challenges in life, and it's a tendency to run from them. We try to avoid them, ignore them, push them away, just pretend they're not there. And then inevitably come back to haunt us in a sense. I went to a hospital to see a man who had been a diabetic, and he'd had problems with alcohol his whole life. When I went to see him, his hands and his feet were covered in scabs. It was like his flesh was falling off his body. He had tried to, pretend that his diabetes wasn't that severe, and it had finally caught up with him. And he was looking at having all 4 limbs amputated. And I'm thinking, how does someone grapple with that kind of situation? I mean, sure, he brought it on himself in a sense, but we don't know the struggles he had with addiction to alcohol and all that, what he had gone through. But in the end, he's fallen to the point where he might lose all 4 limbs. How do you recover from something like that? Like, how far can a person go in life before they're just kind of overwhelmed by the events? They just sort of succumb to the events of their life. I've always wondered about that. How far down into the pit can we go? When I was in my early adult years, I had my troubles, and I tried to run from them, and ended up falling into the pit. I had my big trouble in life was that I hated myself, and I hated the person I'd become. And my other big trouble is I hated my life because of that. And as you can imagine, that's a hard thing to accept or come to terms with. And I kept running from it, trying to keep busy, ignoring it, pretending it's not there. And finally, through a series of events, I found myself on a New Year's Eve one year by myself, with no one to be with. And it's if in that moment, I found myself swinging over a bottomless pit. I could actually see it in my mind. And I was so tired, I just let go, and I fell, without even knowing that there was a bottom to it. In the Bible, it's called Sheol, the pit. It's called Sheol. In Greek literature, it's called Hades. In Babylonian literature, it's called Arulu. It's the bottomless pit that people inevitably fall in. When we die, we all go to Sheol to live this sort of gray-like existence, this Morpheus, non-physical gray world that C.S. Lewis calls the Shadowlands. And we're forgotten there. Basically, that's what the biblical understanding in the Old Testament is. We're just forgotten. God forgets us in that place. And it's a kind of very dark understanding of what our ultimate destiny is. Few people manage to get out of it, a few heroes there, a few special people, but most of us go to Sheol to live in. And you can get to Sheol not just through your own death, physical death. You can die many ways. You can find yourself in the pit in so many ways while you're even still physically alive. And that's what Psalm 88 is about, of someone who's found themselves in the pit in life, and they don't seem to be able to find a way out, and they feel already, even before their physical death, as if they've been forgotten by God and forgotten by life. And they protest this to God. They're struggling with this. When I fell into the pit, I finally hit rock bottom, and I looked around in my mind, and I only saw darkness. And I looked up, and I saw this pinprick of light way, way above me. And I realized in that moment that I was by myself, alone. I was lost. I was forgotten. It was a pretty horrible place to find oneself in. And then I felt this shimmering off to my side, and I knew it was God. God was in the pit with me. And as hard as it was, I knew I would be okay in the end, and I didn't need to rush out of Sheol. We all find ourselves in Sheol, but the promise of other songs that God lives with us there too. In the heavens, of course, but also in the pit.